Gentlemen, welcome to the show. You're on the spot, all of you. Let me begin with David Purkor, because at one point you served in the NRM government. And I'm told there was a time when the NRM had a plan to understudy the succession plans of Tanzania and South Africa. Was that true? And do you think maybe your former colleagues could still be studying the same?
I wish you began with those who are, who are still in NRM, because...
We'll be joined by Honorable Koto Gong shortly.
Because, you know, I find it strange what you just said now, that succession still remains a sticky issue. Sticky to who? How is it sticky when it is spelled out in the Constitution? The Constitution clarifies this matter. So who makes it sticky? So are we traveling on a slippery road? It's not tarmac for 30 years. What is it? Which road is this? Linking a district to a capital city? Linking
David,
a sub-county to...
Do you want to say
so
it's as easy as that we know where we are headed? Is that what you want to say?
Of course, there are three problems here. One, is the Constitution still alive or it's dead? There are those who think it's dead. There are those who think it's just a mere piece of paper. And therefore, I cannot be restrained by a paper constraint. Museveni belongs to that school. But there are those who think that the Constitution is alive and spells out this matter. But anyway, let me come back. I hope these are issues we shall discuss. Yes. Let me come specifically to the history of this. I happen to have been one of those in 2002 who took this matter seriously, because then the President Museveni of 2001 had said he was going to retire in 2006. And therefore, as intelligence chief dealing with external security, we had then to see how do we manage this matter when it comes. So looking at the experience of Tanzania, so is President Museveni going to take the Nyerere model, i.e., he put a committee, just like Museveni put a committee under Kionga. That's what Nyerere did, to see whether to open up political space or not, amend the Constitution of the Republic of Tanzania, and bring multipartyism, so that you move from CCM as a single party to a multi-party dispensation, and then from Nyerere to somebody unknown. So how did they manage it? The report the committee made, just like Kionga committee made in 2003, that don't open up political space. So I came up with that report. I also came up with how Mwalimu Nyerere actually overruled that committee, and how the matter was disposed by the Parliament of Tanzania, and how they amended, how Mwalimu became the chairman of CCM and let go to Mwinyi, President Mwinyi, Hassan Mwinyi, and then again how when corruption hit the roof, how the following 5 years, how the matter came up, and Mwalimu came support President Mkapa, but then Chikwete beat Mkapa at primaries. So Tanzania CCM was presented with a dilemma here. And President Nyerere came to that meeting holding two hands. This one is well formed. This one is still young, needs to improve in 2, 3, 4 areas. Okay, so all of them have mentored them. They're all good for leadership. Why don't we give this one who's ready to govern, and with a commitment to build the capacity of this one, who then after him should hand over to this, not to destroy him. And there was a big hand clap and acclamation, and they resolved the matter. What did Nyerere do? By becoming chairman of the party, he was able to see two transitions. From him to Hassan Mwinyi, from Hassan Mwinyi to President Mkapa. And President Mkapa served this full and handed over to Jakaya Kikwete. Jakaya Kikwete served these 2 terms and handed over to Magufuli. And power has remained within CCM. So I was bringing this experience and discussing with President Museveni in Gulu in 2002, December, and saying you can choose the Nyerere model, or you can actually pick the Mandela model. Nelson Mandela, when I had the discussions with him, was that he set himself to go for 1 term. The rest was in prison. When he came, he made sure after 2.5 years, he made sure that he picked a young man called President Mbeki, Thabo Mbeki, okay, whom he had identified, and then he took his would-be competitors. That is the present president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma. He brought him to the Burundi peace process to take over from him. And then he put Ramaphosa into black empowerment, the economy.
Okay.
And therefore, Mbeki created a dream team around him. And President Mandela started ceding off power to Mbeki. And so by the time he was retiring, Mbeki was used to running the country.
All right.
And so that is the Mandela model, meaning President Museveni needs to put somebody very serious in the office of the deputy president.
All right. You've given us the models, and they seem to have worked for those two countries, South Africa and Tanzania. Maybe worked pretty well for Tanzania. Dr. Karieja, sometimes you have a knack for discerning political outcomes. Do you doubt in your mind that the constitution will be changed to remove the age limit before 2021?
When people ask questions, it means that they are expecting an answer, or they want to see whether other people have the same answer like theirs. By the fact that this debate is raging within the party, or those that are associated with the party, and now it has gone outside in the public domain, but also still largely, the key debaters actually in this matter are still members of the party. It means that there is what we call uncertainty avoidance. I think the deeper question is, how do we configure a post-Museveni Uganda, a post-Museveni NRM? Then two, assuming forces, either with or without his consent, change the constitution. So because there is uncertainty avoidance, people are a bit unsure and they want to capture the future and hold it. In Kenya there was another model. There was a negotiated transition. More you have to do a negotiation. So even there can be a negotiated transition if you feel that the dominant forces are not your forces. But in Uganda we have a hegemonic party which one can most likely predict that even it will be in charge of the post-Museveni presidency. So yes, there is a possibility that some people are now raising the question so that people start asking themselves, is this constitution cast in stone? Are there possibilities that it can
You know, David began by challenging what I said, that the debate, the succession issue is sticky. But Honorable Dong, by the way, congratulations, you are newly elected to join the Iyala MP, and you got the highest number of votes. And I think whoever was contesting against you, that was a knockout.
Thank you.
David...
Is he aiming for that?
David began by challenging what I said, that the succession debate is a sticky issue. And he thinks it isn't, because we have a timetable, we have a constitution, we have everything in place. You really think it's not sticky?
It is not. I think I tend to agree with David on that question. Because, you see, NRM as a political organization is governed by its constitution. So the internal discussions around a broad range of issues affecting the party, including what you are now calling the succession debate, is governed within the realms of that constitution. And as far as I'm concerned, for as long as that constitution is alive and active as it is right now, it is going to govern the way we are going to discuss the succession question. So to me, it's not as sticky as it is portrayed outside. I think the anxiety that is building outside there is essentially for those who do not understand the workings of NRM as a political organization. Within the NRM, there is a system, a well-established system, there is a constitution, and there is a membership that abides by that constitution. The question that for me is very important here is whether we should have that debate. Not whether it is a sticky issue. It is whether we should have that debate and whether the timing is correct, whether we have structured that
Can
debate.
you, in the NRM, really have that debate?
Why not?
Because history has not shown us that you can actually debate on issues of who leads the party. You actually ring-fence that. You can debate other things, but not the chairman of the party, or even when it comes to who is going to be the president, the presidential candidate. That's what we know.
Why are we having this conversation here on NTV? Isn't it because members of the National Resistance Movement have provoked that debate? And haven't you followed the conversations in the media, whether social media or in the print media, of members of this party engaging with different views? People are expressing different views on the question of succession. That is beginning from within the political organization called NRM. That means NRM has the capacity to engage in that discussion. It has the membership that is willing to have that conversation. What we should be looking at now is the fundamentals. Is the timing correct? Is the discussion very well structured? Does it inform the future of the political organization that we're having right now, the National Resistance Movement? Are the discussions based on the contemporary and the future challenges that we anticipate as a political organization? Those should be the issues that should guide this conversation, in my opinion.
When you say you say maybe it's not a sticky issue like you began, David, do you really, are you talking from the deep down bottom of your heart and you mean it? It's not sticky.
You see, ordinarily, that's why I'm saying ordinarily, it should not be a sticky issue, because this matter was discussed at the making of the Constitution in the CA and the promulgation of the Constitution, and therefore the Constitution lays out, like Honorable Amanyam Shega said recently, you are 75 years, you are 75 years. You cannot wind the clock behind, although we have seen judges recently saying, oh, I've just discovered that I'm 4 years younger or 2 years younger than I thought I was, and then try to amend because the seat is sweet. Although, so it means there are 4 problems. The succession issue can be sticky because of 4 issues. Ordinarily, it should not be sticky. 1, there is lack of honesty. Honesty, some people just in their DNA, in their blood, in their makeup, tell lies routinely. And they are really allergic to telling the truth. And they even don't want to. So they put their body language, even when they know the truth, what the Constitution says, they appear like they are not interested. You just saw one in Rwanda. It's not me, it's the people. You just saw in the other time, the Kisanja, when the term limits were lifted. The Constitution was very clear. And you saw what happened because of dishonesty. Now, those who are propelling this debate now, every season, political season in Uganda has got its cheerleaders. So another Nite is going to emerge now. There was a Nite of the other time who had to kneel down and beg the president not to go away and stay. So other cheerleaders are emerging now. They want to be other Nites because they have seen how a Nite was rewarded. And before that, you know, those who were really in 2006 who were saying Mzee should not go because it will be like abandoning the revolution to the dogs. It will be responsibility on his part. I know colleagues who were telling the president that when the rest of us were saying, no, these people who want you to stay beyond your term limit do not love you, Mr. President. They love themselves. They know if you go, nobody is going to appoint them to be Minister X or Minister Y, and they will not have access to these resources and this pomp and this influence. So, not that they love you, Mr. President. They don't care about you. Even if you burn your legacy, even if you mess it up, that's not their problem. Their problem is they love themselves. So you stay so that you can continue appointing them to these ministries. So there will be always those people. So the onus is therefore then on the president. It's about his legacy. It's not all of us who are 75 years. It is the president who is the president of Uganda who is 75 years who must say no. But what have you heard of him recently? He says, I'm busy with poverty eradication. Can you imagine poverty when income inequality has been widening and growing? This poverty he has been dealing with.
David, so, let me put this.
So he doesn't say don't discuss. He's not putting a finality to this matter. So he's not honest.
He put a finality on this very show about 6 years ago. He said, not at all, certainly not.
The second issue.
In an interview with
me.
Yeah, but where did he go?
But
Well,
75 years
that was
ago.
not
Yes.
years ago. Why,
Yes.
but we are
Not
talking
in
about
75.
it now.
We
Then
still
why
have
is
to
why is
hold
it a sticky issue then? If he has put a finality to it, why is it a sticky
But-
issue?
but
The
Dr.
second thing is that people are bringing it up so as to gauge what others have to say. Now, after elections, that euphoria of success, I saw the president coming up like he was going to remove this age limit quickly. But what has made him slow down now is he hearing these voices. So I think let citizens discuss this matter. And third is that, is the constitution alive? So there are areas where the constitution is completely dead. And maybe
Okay.
that's why this matter is a sticky issue.
Let's look into the reality.
So I was going to give you the fourth factor,
okay,
which
this-
makes it a sticky issue.
Okay, Dr. Karieja, there are people, the stakes are high. This is our country, and sometimes when you look on the other side of the political divide, are they ready? Can they, if they are to take over, not necessarily NRM or any other person, can they hold this country together? Because he has an experience of 30 years.
Yes, and you see, when you look at the history of, for example, when you look at the political transition in North Korea, in Turkmenistan, in Uzbekistan, and other places, in Argentina, in Brazil, where you have a hegemonic party.
This is,
strong-
is that our class now?
Yes,
Okay.
a strong dominant party. My prediction is that
And a corrupt party at that.
the post-Museveni era is most likely going to have a president from NRM, at least at the immediate.
You can't be.
My predictions can always go wrong, and I'm not a linearist. Things can always change. But when you have a situation where you have executive supremacy, where you have a centralized state, it creates a lot of appetite for people to become president. But the question is, are our political parties capable as of now to do what we call political succession and recruitment in that preparation? And that's why there is this debate, because a number of our political parties have not demonstrated their ability to do sufficient and excellent political recruitment and selection. So from that perspective, one can easily see that it is the political power mongers actually that will be the dominant actors in this debate.
Hold on to your point there. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll be joined by the Dokolo South MP, who's also a former minister, Honorable Okoto Dong.
Kotogo.
Okoto, welcome back. You're watching On The Spot. My name is Patrick Amara, and my guests tonight are from the Leadership Institute. We have David Pulkol. We have the MP-elect for Iyala, the Honorable Georgia Dong. We have Dr. Gerard Karieja, who is the Associate Professor and Dean School of Management Science at UMI. And we've been joined by Honorable Okoto Gong, and Member of Parliament for Dokolo South. At one point, he actually dared to stand against the president in the primaries. Honorable, welcome to the show.
All right, thank you very much, Tamara.
We started without you, but now we're happy we have you.
Thank you.
We have heard that the NRM caucus plans to go retreat in Chankwanzi and talk about lifting the age limit. And that, if that happens, will you support it?
First of all, why should we lift the age limit? Because Uganda is now ready for transition, change to another leadership. And President Yoweri Museveni has actually clocked the age of 75. And therefore, it does not qualify in the next general elections. And therefore, for anybody to think that we should amend the constitution to fit the interest of one person, then that person does not think about the country. Thinks about one person, but not the people. Transition is very important in economic development and stability, and also for investors. Investors want a conducive condition whereby change of leadership is determined. It is clear. But right now, if leadership is only pegged on one person, and yet the country is ready for leadership, we are ready to take over. Young people are coming up to take over. And I think General Yoweri Museveni, I thank him, he has done very, very well. There's stability now. The economy is moving on well, although the poverty level has also gone up. And therefore, I feel that for the interest of this country, I think our president will see the reality on the ground And it will come out clearly.
You tested this. You tried to challenge him at the party chairmanship at one point, and really somehow you are not successful. Do you think your colleagues in the party, who at one point thought maybe you are no match to the president, even though you had the ambition, this time around can pick one amongst you to take over the leadership?
Let me tell you one thing. Why I contested with my president, my chairman, was to deepen democracy within our party. And secondly, to make people know that people must show their interest, ambition from within the party, not under the curtain, behind the curtain. They come out clearly. And once you have shown interest in leadership of the country, you are not victimized by anybody. It is free. Nobody should victimize you. And that's why I offered myself to test the credibility of leaders that we have. Those who think they must be there and nobody should show interest. And you know what happens? I was a very capable minister, Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Minister for Children Affairs, and I've been given accolade of being the best Minister of Youth, very good minister in Parliament. But you know what has happened? We tested the political credibility of some of our leaders, that when you show interest, you are victimized. So and which is very wrong. You could say you have been punished for testing.
I think so.
I think I paid the price. But I'm happy because my other person came up who was actually against me, my brother, Honorable Mbabazi, because he used the same method. So when we came to the caucus, I told him, you are not going to change the method. The method you used on me must also apply on you. And he was clearly...
David, you have some...
Yes, and there was one called Captain Maguru.
Twice.
Twice. And the first time, his paper was not even brought. Although he had submitted it, he was not even submitted to the organs. So he went to court. And so to nullify, because the primaries was fraudulently handled, and their constitutional rights was violated. So it was nullifying the election of President Museveni as the president for NRM candidate at that time, as well as for the president of Uganda. So it was going to unravel the entire process. And then there was talks outside the court, and then he was supposed to be paid some money. Now you remember in the last before the last election when he went to Chankwanzi to demand the balance, and he was roughened and arrested at the quarter guard. And have you heard of Maguru again? So, meaning that if people like Honorable Kotogong tested to see the magnanimity, the internal democracy on succession within the party, he had to pay the price. Then the other one who gained courage was Captain Maguru. You know how he ended. So, if you call NRM people today to come here, most of them would fear to come and...
His NRM.
NRM. Many. I've said many of them would fear, except this one's made of steel. I mean, what more punishment can you cause to Okotogong? He's an independent free thinker. Whether you want or not, he's not surviving because of that. So the challenge here is that when you get people like David Mapabi, he talks about Karl Marx and so forth and theories, but he doesn't tell you a single thing, saying all about nothing. But the question is, why is this a sticky issue, my brother? I've just told you that because people are refusing to honor the Constitution. For example, there's a case in court taken by Alipanga, if you remember, before Mbabasi stood for presidency, who was taking to court that the president is already beyond the age, and was adducing as his evidence the first version of sowing the mustard seed, which written by President Museveni about his age, and also again by what Janet Museveni in her book said. But that case has not been brought for. I don't know which judge is sitting on it. It has not been disposed. So now we reach another succession debate. This time for 2021. Who is bringing this? Wandu Abogo. Hey, from the household? Yes. Is it genuine? Maybe. Is it just testing the water? Is it an intelligence operation to hear who is coming up in order to be punished like Okotogong did? Are they genuine? And then what does the president say when the matter comes? I'm still busy with poverty eradication. But which poverty? Now, the economy has gone stupid, real stupid. The politics is also stupid. But even some court orders have started to be stupid. So where is the country going? This is a matter that must be discussed. And the people should honor the Constitution. Now, let the country watch those who are really for abrogating or amending the constitution. Let's now watch who is saying what. Now, if the country again goes that path, because what I see from the body language of the president, what I see, my reading, is that he's going nowhere. I think he wants to succeed himself. But should he choose that path, then he will have to be removed by welding until, you know, and he may not like it.
Whatever that means.
He may not like it.
Honorable George Odong, when you look back into the history of our country and the politics, you see a man, President Museveni, back in the 60s and 70s, as a young man, you know, having influence, having ambition, you know, is impacting on the socio-economic politics of the day. Where are the young people of today? How come we don't have people, young NRM, young tax? Well, you've had Koto Gong, but where are they? He was influential in his 30s, in his 20s, in his 40s. He could make things move. Where are you, the Georges of today?
But I'm here. The thing is
to say that you should go on and on as a cheerleader, as a cheerleader.
No, I think this political organization called NRM has been able to nurture so many young leaders.
That's true. That's true.
Let's be fair. I don't know whether you want me to start throwing names here and there, but the principle is that in the last 30 years of NRM, we have groomed such a huge number of young leaders. Perhaps it is because of the power, the influence of President Museveni that makes you think that there is no young crop of leaders that has emerged within NRM. But you know that when we ran for the Yala elections, NTV made a very interesting statement. They said, a little known George Odong trounces veterans. You see, I am a little known George Odong because I have not been a dominant person within the media. But for the many young people within NRM, they know that I have grown through and through in the leadership. And I have a profile. That means there are many other people outside there who have been grouped through the National Resistance Movement system and have taken up positions and are providing leadership at various levels. So, it is a very unfair assessment to imagine that, you know, the Museveni of the 60s cannot be matched by the young people of our generation. No, there are so many young people outside, and we must thank the president and the party for grooming.
So why is it that when it comes to talk about the leadership of your party, the young people like you are actually more of cheerleaders than what Honorable Court did?
That is also a very unfair assessment.
But that's what we saw, Honorable George.
Where?
In Chankwanzi, a couple of years back, during the Soul candidature thing.
Well, you see, again, we have to look at what stage. There are different stages. You see, right now, maybe at that time, it was the young person who led that campaign, and I think it's part of leadership. What tells you that coming up to support President Museveni is not leadership in itself? It is also leadership. And I think that you should be fair enough to say that young people led a movement that led to Museveni's presidency. And that should be credit to young people. That is leadership.
That's the leadership you have shown.
No,
that's the leadership you give.
No. Another young people can take the same path.
No.
Another person can.
No.
And then
let me bring in Associate Professor Karieje. How do you assess our young people in the present day, and how are they impacting on our politics, on our economy, on all things that matter today? Because I see a dominant figure of President Museveni. He really stood out in the 70s. He stood out in the 80s. He's standing out even now.
Yeah. First of all, I think the mission is different. The generation of politicians now, the young politicians, maybe their questions are different. Their question is, how do we deepen democracy, for example? How do we deal with the question of succession? I think that's why Rawogo is raising it. But you also must notice that because of President Yoweri Museveni's strength, there are also a number of politicians, both within NRM and outside NRM, whose relationship I would call that one of hostile dependency. They are hostile to Museveni, the person, and at the same time they are dependent on him in terms of he created them.
Hostile dependency.
So that creates a situation where most people are, should I, shouldn't I, until the dominant force is what they follow. So you will find not so many people standing out in extreme positions, whether it is for or against a particular position. And that is how I read the what you would call the young politicians or the young Turks. But I would want to agree with him that even across the board, there are very many young Turks who are capable of handling state matters in terms of statecraft. Some of them have been tested in different agencies. Some have been a total disappointment. Others have been consumed by power. But also there are some who have demonstrated that they are capable.
Is there a but to that statement?
Beg your pardon?
Is there a but? There are many who are capable, but can you address the but?
Yeah.
Why are they not stepping forward?
Hostile dependence.
But, David, I have seen one institution that I have great admiration for, and that is the army. They seem to have to be solid. They seem to produce a crop of leaders who can step up and offer leadership. I can even give you names now, from General Museveni to Dr. Kiza Besigye to General Muntu to people like yourselves who are even in military intelligence or something like that. That institution, where are other institutions to produce leaders that we can maybe rely on? What is happening to a new generation of leaders to emerge?
The worry, while I agree with you about UPDF as an institution for stability, the worry is that UPDF has not yet outgrown the founder members. And the founder members, those generals, that's why even at one point we would wonder how come that one part,
it's now in the hands of the young Turks.
Yeah, you could even wonder why one part of the country
General Mohozi was not among
is so fertile that it can produce so many generals, and other parts of this country do not, the soil is not as fertile. Even those who have gone to train, and they know what a military is in a democracy, but there is an attempt to make UPDF actually not detached from party politics. If you see even where they sit in parliament, it just tells you. If you see, instead of guiding the public, even the parliament, on various controversial issues as an institution for stability, you see what comes out of our MPs.
But do you agree
now, let me come back.
Institution, it has given us
means of valor. It's being messed up by what I called the other day GMOs, genetically modified officers. So because there are people who are favored, who jump the ranks. In other armies, when your age reaches, you must be a certain rank. Whichever comes first, that rank or your age, you go. But is UPDF following that? No. So don't overemphasize, don't read too much into UPDF. It's not yet functioning as a professional army, not yet. It's being interfered from the top. If you look at the UPDF Act today, you will find under Schedule 5, the list of members, written names of those who are into historical command, high command. So even if Besigye took over power tomorrow, so long as that UPDF Act has not been amended, you're going to meet Museveni, you're going to meet Tinyefuza, you're going to meet Saleh, you're going to meet Eli Tumine, you're going to meet them in the high command. So why should names of shareholders of this institution called the army be written in any law? It's the only law in the whole world where names of individuals are written into the law.
As opposed to the
titles of office. You know, if this is, then you ask yourself, are there shareholders of UPDF? Okay, let them give us the bill for liberating Uganda, and we pay and they go away.
It appears either he wants to disagree or emphasize your point.
No, I want to disagree with my brother. What is so clear is that we have a clear discipline and succession program in the UPDF.
I agree with
That one is very clear.
in part.
You have seen great generals
But-
are now retired. Most of them come and they're now in parliament with us. You remember the other day, our great General Katumba Wamala?
Is he retired or is still in the
He
army?
is not retired, but he has been given another opportunity to allow other generation to come and take leadership of the army. I think the army, according to the plan of and the program of succession, it is very clear, and I commend them for that.
First
And the
General,
discipline.
Junior Minister.
The problem that we have, especially with Ugandans, like even most of us think that we don't have leaders in this country, young leaders in this country. Go at the local government levels. There are very many young Turks leading the districts, leading the councils, speakers. They mention them. Even when you come to parliament here, most of our members of parliament, about 60% are young leaders, and generally they're very good. And I want to promise that in the NRM, we have very many leaders that can take on and lead this country and take it to another generation.
Okay, Dr. Karija, should we leave this, maybe not worry, because after all we have a constitution, after all we have a timetable, and let's come 2020, and then everything will just go into autopilot, and they will go to Chankwanzi in a caucus, elect another person to be their chairman, and then everything will move smoothly.
Legal processes can be political, and political processes can be legal. But political questions are answered politically, and they create anxiety.
Yes.
There is anxiety in the nation, and I think that's why the president has of late has not talked with the finality, because that is one of his sources of power. I mean, if he said, I'm handing over to XYZ,
No, he can't.
or I'm doing this, or I'm going, or I'm not going, whichever statement he will make, I think he's still looking at the political risks.
No.
Yes.
I think the issue is very clear that our president is still willing and ready to take on. And whatever comes, or from any angle, that the population have been moved to amend the constitution, he will be very happy with it. He will welcome
how
it.
is the population moved, by the way?
They will move themselves, or they will be prompted. And I can see signs that people are already preparing. And it is not going to take long. When you do hear districts coming with resolutions, when you do hear some members of parliament coming with their resolutions that we need, there's nobody, we don't see anybody. And you will say, okay, if you don't see, I'm ready.
And people are saying, since members of parliament don't have an age limit.
And they're saying even the age limit is not there. And as you can see now, the president has even become younger. He's running everywhere, he's drawing water, he's riding bicycles, he's doing everything to show Ugandans that he's not going anywhere, he's still too young. And by the way, he's a soldier and very strong. His spirit, the will and everything is very strong. And therefore, it is all indication is that my president chairman is not ready to give it in. Because what is important now is just his goodwill. To say, I think I've done enough. I think we need to sit down as a party. We need to get somebody that we can rely on, somebody we can give support, and we will give support so that we move to another level of our politics.
David.
I'm saying that it's goodwill. That is, if we are going to have a peaceful change. His goodwill is indeed required. But you have just heard that all the body language is not turning towards that. Maybe it's bad will to stay because there's no goodwill to go away. Now, he has repeatedly said it's not his job to mentor anybody or to groom anybody, that the leaders will emerge
from the party.
Now, if there's an orderly transfer of power succession, as it is planned in the Constitution, then that succession will come peacefully. If it is not, I'm just saying, we run the risks of a more violent change.
Not at all.
We run the risk. It's a risk nonetheless, not that it will come. So whether the NRM people like it or not, so long as you choose that path, you cannot avoid this. You are making a more violent change to become possible because you are blocking all avenues, even for internal, because President Museveni has made it very costly for anybody to oppose him inside this party, like Okotogong, like Amama Babas, like Captain Maguru. It becomes so costly for you to oppose him inside the party. He has also made it doubly costly for you to oppose him outside the party, whether you're a Besigye or anybody else. So it makes it sure that it is completely costly. Now, to the point of abusing the Constitution. For example, if the Constitution says, the law says that aspiring candidate is free to consult the country 1 year in advance. And then now, when the candidate shows up, you saw how the police was misused. Even without the rules, NRM had no rules yet. So the late Kawesi, let God rest his soul in eternal peace, was made to stop a mama at the bridge, misusing the police against the Constitution. And what did they do? Then after Amama was brought back, is now when the Central Executive Committee started meeting under the chairmanship of a candidate called President Museveni. You are now the one drawing the rules to punish other candidates. And you are also a candidate. Can you imagine drawing rules that will govern others? So that lack of, if you choose that path, that's the point I'm saying, is the Constitution alive? If the police can flout the Constitution at will, is it still a Constitution?
No,
okay, that's why then this becomes a sticky issue. If we don't respect the Constitution, that's the point I'm making. And I'm just using what has happened.
Does the situation worry you, or you as young members of NRM, you are in a certain comfort zone, everything will be fine?
Listen, the reason we are having this conversation is because young people who are part of the NRM have sparked of that conversation. I would imagine that Audrey Rabogo and the other people who think alike are part of a younger generation that has been groomed by NRM, and they have sparked that conversation. There are also those who think that we must restrain that conversation. They are all part of the NRM, meaning that NRM is providing a vibrant, you know, an environment, a platform for that kind of conversation. If you ask me, and I made this caveat earlier on that, you know, these are my own views. Thing is that, should we have this conversation? My answer is yes, we should have it. Because the issue of succession should be tied to transition. Those are two different things. Succession is about the leader. Transition is moving from one stage to the other. Now, should we discuss the succession? Yes, because whether we want it or not, President Museveni will leave the stage at one point. Whether it is now when he clocks 75 years or later on, if
the 400 plus,
if they choose to amend the Constitution, what is constant is that change in leadership must happen. Now, NRM is a very dominant political organization, and by the way, NRM is not an ordinary political party like the rest of these other parties, DP, UPC, and so on. In form, in structure, in character.
It's a state.
No, in
just
character.
a military wing.
Let me tell you something. That which other political organization has a veterans league?
There you go.
Which other political organization has a veterans league?
Or sits with military of the country in the same seat?
No, not like that. Not like that, David. It means that in its own character, by its own formation, NRM is a unique political organization. The discussions around its succession and leadership should take a long time, in my view, and that's why we must begin to have that conversation, anticipating a change in leadership, but also looking at it that there were conditions that propelled this political organization, that informed its formation. It has had its own challenges currently, and it also has challenges that it anticipates to face in the future. So we must be able to prepare ourselves along that trajectory of the events that I've just been able to highlight. That's why I still think that we must encourage this conversation. And that conversation should not be pegged entirely on President Museveni.
But the Constitution says
it must not be pegged entirely on President Museveni. I think it has President Museveni as a factor, but other factors should be put into consideration. Because we are talking about the future of a country, not the future of an individual.
We're going to take a break, and then we'll be right back. When we come back, I'll open the line so that even you two at home can tell us what you think about the succession debate. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara, and tonight we're discussing succession and transition. You know, let me begin with you in this segment, Dr. Karija. We have seen Odrek Rwabogo start the discussion, and then the discussion is moving on. But he also tried to contest for one of the leadership positions in NRM, representing Western Uganda, against Major General Matayo Chalgonza, and he was stopped. And he was unhappy. I met him when he was campaigning, and then he was stopped. But now he can have this debate, and it looks like, well, it can go on. But is what he started, can we believe it? Can we believe that it's really from him, or this is a choreography kind of thing to gauge the mood, like we are into it now?
Yeah, I think he can best answer that. But what is my reading of the situation?
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
One, you know, when we are looking at organizations, especially political parties, we are also, when you look at the capacity of a party, you look at its capacity to accept new ideas and its capacity to accept new actors, to ascend to positions of power. So the question is, to what extent is NRM accepting new actors to ascend to political positions within the party?
But you have one
and how far do they go?
Right there,
Exactly.
somebody tried to attempt, and as if there's an unwritten credo that do not.
So that shows that there is some resistance somewhere. Two, the fact that Odrek started this debate or contributed to that debate, and it's now outside in the public forum or outside NRM. The bigger question is not so. I think Ugandans are not so much contesting the ability of President Yoweri Museveni to lead. I think the biggest issue of contention is people are yearning or eager or anxious to see a non-Museveni presidency. So I think sometimes when these ideas come up, people mix them up, and it's like it's exactly about the person. But I think we can filter the so whether Odrek Rwabogo can be believed or not, it is about their intentions. They say that we shall see them from their fruits. His actions from now and up to 2016,
2021,
21, those that he will ally with, those that he will not agree with, to me will be more the test of his intentions than what people are propagating, because it is more of what people do that tell us their intentions and less about what they say. He
just said that maybe people are yearning to see a post-Museveni kind of era. But really, people want to make sure they have food on their table, they are taking their children to school, they have an income, their livelihoods are better. And whether that is under the presence of Museveni or maybe Ogong, it doesn't matter. But I think realistically, that's what people need. But can any other person today provide that kind of stability? You have something to eat, you have something to save, and you have something to invest, and you live in this country. Honorable Kotogong, would that happen under your...
What I think is that debating succession is very important. But my question right now, which is confusing everybody, should a member of the palace be the one to champion? That is what is confusing people.
Doesn't he have a right?
He has a right
to express his views?
Yeah, he has a right. But now people are questioning, you are part of the palace. How comes you are the one contesting or championing the idea that most people believe in? And that's why it is creating a lot of confusion. Why is it Odrek doing it? And yet what he's stating is the truth, that we need a peaceful transition. We need to prepare a new crop, a new generation to take on the leadership, not only political, but also in the economic, social, and other spheres of life. And therefore, I think, given the opportunity to lead this country, I don't think I can fail to lead this country, or any other member of the movement, or any other member of this country. The foundation has been laid by President Yoweri Museveni. We now have peace, we now have democracy, Though some people contest it, but there is democracy, whereby people can contest at all levels. We have the structure of government, we have the executive, we have parliament, and we have the judiciary. Those are now set. The ground is now set. But now the question is, are we ready for that transition? Are we ready to take over from President Yoweri Museveni? The question is yes. Uganda is now ready. Young people are ready. Even the old people. Even you, I believe, we are all yearning that we need to get a new crop of leaders, new ideas, new stage, and new everything. And I believe when you go to other countries, you see how fast they have moved. And people might even be surprised that somebody will come after Museveni will move Uganda faster and better. But people are not yet, they have not yet seen. But given the opportunity, you just go to our neighbors here, Ethiopia, you go to Rwanda, there are certain little things that we can do and propel our country to a very high level of development. And therefore, I believe that new ideas should come in. New leaders should come out. New group, new team. Because right now, our president, the new government, has a crop of leaders that have already been there. They have tried. Others are now saying, we have done our best. What other thing can we do? So those are the people we should now put aside. Because they're already thumping their chest that we have done everything. And we have done our best. So you need to have leaders with new challenges and new ideas. That will move our country. And I think Uganda deserves better. He has done his best. George, we appreciate, and therefore...
In 2 months' time, you are joining your colleagues from Tanzania and Kenya in Arusha as our Iyala MP. And they seem to have somehow reached a level of, you know, where they can accept a certain political, you know, I don't know how to term it, but they seem to have solved the political question, especially Tanzania.
On succession.
On succession. I mean, we look like the sick man of East Africa in some way.
Not at all. Not at all. You know why? Because you see, our history is quite different. The experience of Tanzania and that of Kenya is quite different from our own experience. And that's why, and I don't think that those countries entirely enjoy, you know, 100% free political atmosphere. But yes, there is a semblance of, we can say yes, they are comfortable in the way they discuss their succession issues and so on. But you know, the case of Uganda is quite different. That NRM as a political organization, as an outfit, it was born out of
a struggle.
A struggle. Blood. And remember that NRM came here in 1986 and it was here as a one-party state up to
2006.
Up to 2006. And then NRM was born as a political organization and took over. So our experience is quite different from that of Tanzania. But what I'm saying is, and that's what is important, that we must encourage this kind of discussion. We must encourage it within NRM as a political party. That is what makes NRM a strong party, and that's what makes our country prepared for real political party contestation. And I think that, you see, the reason why I would have preferred that this debate intensifies within NRM as a political party, because we are the ones who own it. And that's why I think that when I listen to David and he is encouraging this debate, I'm asking, why don't you discuss?
Because the alternative is worse.
Transition in your
the alternative. Listen, the alternative of no orderly transition, particularly when the constitution is very clear, the alternative is violence.
No.
And we don't want that violence. But because he who makes peaceful change impossible to achieve is making the violent change possible to achieve. Just watch the space. It's not because of me, it's experience worldwide.
No.
But now, the point then I must make here, if you allow me, otherwise George may have to complete what I was saying. If you allow me, is that ordinarily, Uganda should not lose sleep over this matter, because the constitution is very clear. Has he reached the age? Yes. When will he reach? Which September? Which year? 2019? It's known. by now, although others say he's even older, much older, but and you know how DP Young Democrats have been celebrating his birthday, his 75th birthday, much earlier. But that's a different matter. For now, let's accept his official record that he will now be reaching that age which the Constitution says. Now, is there going to come self-interest? This is the point I'm making. Those parochial interests, those selfish interests, either from he himself, from the family, or his cohorts within the cabinet, within parliament, which I've just said now. Now, if those interests take the upper hand, do you know then what others will do when you choose that path? Last time it took 5 million to lift the term limit, the magical 5 million, even to kill the divorce and what, 5 million in that parliament. There's something about 5 million. Maybe now, even to get Olanya elected, another, I don't know how many million. So let's watch this space. How many millions will it take now to lift this
But you
thing?
said 5 million, the magic.
So far, but the economy has gone
price.
stupid. And the economy has gone stupid. What 5 million used to do,
but,
cannot do.
we need to
And I've
correct
seen what
something.
my friend Romishana says, that there are people who prostitute their conscience. Not real sexual prostitution. There are people who cut deals with the president, and then they become cheerleaders. They come now and move the rest of parliament to that direction, when for them they have taken their cut. Mao called it pimping. Like if you get somebody to mobilize for you, prostitute for certain clients. So those are going to emerge in this parliament, who will now be procuring, okay, the rest of parliament for this purpose of lifting the term limit, who will have to sell their own conscience.
Okay.
So
No.
that is the worry some of us have.
No, but there's something we need to correct. He's saying that we are discussing succession because of fear of violent change of
And you're saying there
power.
can be no violent change.
But I'm telling you, the ingredients of peace or permanent peace in Uganda is laid. And I can assure you, the army is ready. And most of our problems have been coming from the army. Secondly, NRM is so dominant. Like President Museveni, with the leadership of NRM, is so dominant everywhere, in the parliament, in the districts, on the ground, and everything. So therefore, what we are saying is not out of fear of violent change of power. What we are saying is democracy, where there is certainty that we are going to have a new crop of leaders, not leaders who are now just there and they are not willing to take new challenges.
So
and
until
that is
that
why
army
we are
is
saying
beaten.
that should be.
Okay.
But for him, he's saying it's
So
without
until
of
that
fear.
army is beaten and beaten thoroughly.
No, it cannot be.
Even if you are dominant, you can disagree amongst yourselves and you can rock the boat.
I think it is a move. The country is moving, in my view,
Yeah.
away from procedural democracy, which is about votes, processes, and so on.
Yeah.
And people are now saying, let's go deeper
Yeah.
into what is called substantive democracy.
Democracy.
A higher order
Of
of
democracy.
democracy, where issues of, where there are no sacred.
Yeah.
Cows. Like you're Chigongo,
Yeah.
if somebody contends against you, he must stop. You're Chaligonza, if somebody contends against you, no.
No, but
Ring
even
fencing,
the-
ring fencing,
If you
ring
have some
fencing.
unwritten credo.
You know, yeah, ring
Let
fencing.
me open the line so that we get to hear what other people are saying tonight on this very issue. I'm opening the line right now. You can call. The numbers are on the screen. Let me take the first call online. Hello. Oops. We lost that. Let me take another call online. Hello. Hello. I have a call online. Hello. Okay, I'm going to drop that call because it's not very clear, and I pick another. Hello? Hello?
Hello,
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
my name is Okelo.
Okelo, where are you calling
I'm
from?
calling from Muyenga.
Go right ahead, sir.
Now, my friend professor there
Yes.
talked about from Museveni to NRM successor. I think, like Pulkol is saying, Museveni seemed not to be reading, or the whole of NRM seemed not to be reading the scripts of Tanzania, South Africa, Ghana, Zambia, and the rest. They are reading the scripts of Libya, Zaire, Egypt, Tunisia, and they are following it to the latter. They seem not to think that, like Okong says it clearly, that he does not think that there is anything which can cause violence in this country. And yet it is evidently clear, everything which is happening in the country just shows you that everything is not right. People are not at peace. That's why within themselves they're even already saying, no, we need to discuss this succession. Because it's evident that President Museveni is not willing to go into that. You hosted President Museveni some time back, he said he's going. Somebody hosted him in a place he said he's going, and he again passed that. In 86, about 86, 87, Museveni said he was taking 4 years. Time came, they changed the game and that kind of thing. Now, if President Museveni and team, the whole of NRM, continue to think that they would change the constitution to suit one person's purpose, it's very unfair. The country is likely to go into a bad direction. Now, the issue of young tax. I think our country is a country. Every country has great citizenry. I would give you an example. Joseph Kabila was not the best person to take over power when his father passed away, but he became president. He did something quite commendable. If any chance is given in Uganda, I know there are young people who can take over power. There are very many young people who have shown that they can do it. But if you see the trend in NRM, in FPC, in UPC, in DP, you don't seem to see that kind of... There is this thing which NRM brought into our politics, individual merit, and the issue of money, that now when they're looking at politics and any succession, they look at who has the money, who has the military might. Like George Odong is saying, for us in NRM, we even have the veterans wing, or we have something of that kind. So you just see that image that there is everything not right. So I would think it's important Ugandans should wake up and realize that this country is better than them.
All right.
This country is better than the pomp.
All right.
We are many as NRM and that kind of thing.
Okay, Lloyd Muyanga, thank you very much. Your point is made and point is taken. Let me take maybe 2 more calls. Hello? Hello? I have a call online. Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Bob here in Kampala.
Go right ahead, sir, Bob.
First of all, a wrong impression has been created in the studio that the NRM and NRM alone originated this debate. An enormous amount of pressure has been coming from other parties for a very long time. So you are all dead wrong to argue that it's an NRM thing. You don't own the debate at all. You don't. Secondly, we need a national dialogue, a national conversation. Because if you look at the mistakes that were committed in the 60s, when UPC was in power, for instance, they gave a lot of power to the presidency. And DP tried to object. The same mistakes have been repeated, where now the head of state has pocketed the legislature and the judiciary, just like it was in the 60s. So we need a national conversation to correct these mistakes. And thirdly and lastly, people are not acting because in Uganda, people follow where the money is. People follow the money. So they don't want to be on the wrong side. They follow where the money is. So that's why they are observing.
Thank you very much, George. Okay, let me take another caller. Hello? 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 I have a call online. Hello?
Hello. Good evening, Patrick.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Peter calling from Makindi.
Go right ahead, Mr. Kisa.
The gentleman in the center says violence is not an option in Uganda.
Yes.
But let him not forget Uganda's history. No president has left power saying goodbye to his supporters. And secondly, people like Idi Amin and Obote had very, very strong armies, which were, I guess, even stronger than the current army. So if he doesn't think violence is an option, then maybe we'll give it time. But otherwise, we should work to avoid the violence that may happen if things don't go well.
Thank you very much. Let me take the last caller online. Hello? I have the last call online. Hello?
Hello, Patrick.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Richard. I'm calling from Biogreli.
From where?
First of all, from Biogreli.
From Biogreli, okay.
First of all, I want to commend all those who are in the panel today, and I think I'm really impressed. You're open-minded people, and I think you're discussing all these matters from the bottom of your heart. I think I want to start from the point of this succession being discussed. I think what is causing a lot of animosity is the trend that we can tend to see that the constitution is always being changed here and then. If we had not removed the term limit, I think the succession story will not really be a big thing that we're talking about. What Ugandans are worried about is that continuously, the NRM in particular, which is a party that I supported, and back in the days in 1996, when I supported Museveni running for presidency against Semogorere and running in Koboko, where West Nile Bank Front were very violent. But I knew that Museveni was a good person, and for this country, we needed him. My advice to the president, number one, is he has done a lot of good things that all of you have talked about. And as a leader, you can only tell whether you've been a good leader once you've stepped out of power. And I think it is important that he discusses that succession thing within his party, so that people like Odong, and I have seen that they're very young, coming up leaders within the party. If dominance is not there within the party, there are people like the Deputy Secretary General who are very good. Odong, yourself, I've heard you speaking for the first time, you're very good. If opportunity is provided within, if we don't get to continue to see what is happening in the NRM, like Charlie Gonza being supported by the president and the son-in-law gets bitter, or Nsereko wants to stand for speaker and the opponent is supported by the president and gets very bitter. I think NRM is a very strong party, and you can take us to the next level. So, and again, the last thing I would like to say is that I want to challenge Kotogong that if there's no dominance, the dominance that you're talking about is not the force. I am very happy if NRM is dominant in all levels without using force. The force I'm talking about is when you're using resources, whether it is financial or security agencies, to be dominant. That's the unfair part of it. If you're dominant for right reasons, I'm very proud. So I think we should really talk about this, and I think Ugandans are worried because of the history of what happened. And a member of parliament who are actually currently, we have delegated the responsibility of managing the constitution to some extent. We have lost faith in them because of how they act. I think money drives them, and some of them do not have integrity. They take member of parliament jobs because they think it's a job to be paid. But many leaders like Okotogong that I know, you came into these positions because you wanted to serve the country, not because you want to make money. If money is your deal, you will not be a good leader.
Thank you very much for your contributions. Okay, okay, gentlemen, if I can begin with you, Honorable Kotogong, and then to George, because people seem to think that we have to be very careful. An element of violence can actually happen if we don't manage this well. And because ever since Uganda was created as a nation in 1962, we have not had peaceful transition of power. So we should watch out.
Yeah, I think so. And we are really yearning for that opportunity, whereby we would have peaceful transfer of power from one president to another. I think all Ugandans are really yearning for that. And I think opportunity now lies within the NRM. Are we ready to offer the drive? Are we ready to offer the leadership, whereby from within the party we can get a leader and also get a new leader from within to lead the country? And I don't think there is any party that will win NRM if we generally agree that we are falling behind this new leader and we will go to another level. And secondly, I want to inform the viewers that violence is not the option that we need, because right now Ugandans have seen the effect of war, the effect of violence, and we are all praying that that should not happen. And therefore, I think all the ingredients of permanent peace has really been put in place. And once we agree within NRM or within another party, but I think NRM, the dominant party, that we need to take Uganda to another level. We need a new crop of leaders. I believe President Museveni came also with his leadership and also his group. So if it is given to, say, for example, Okotogong or any other person, new person, will identify new leaders with new ideas, new challenges, and will fix Uganda to another, and will make Uganda great again. I think so. I believe it.
What do you make of those calls from, what is your assessment?
Well, I think, number one, Ugandans are informed by our history. And I'm sure that some of the callers who are making these calls really have a fear, and a genuine fear that yes, we can slide back into violence. But I do not want to, to feed into the narrative of violence, because you see, as a country, we have already had enough of that. There is no, in my opinion, there is no amount, or I don't know what, no amount of motivation should drive us into violence. I think as it is right now, we have the means to mitigate on any, and that's why we are encouraging this kind of conversation, saying, let us discuss the future of the country. Unfortunately, that discussion cannot go without mention of President Museveni, because President Museveni has been the dominant figure. But to me, I want us to elevate this discussion to say this is our country, we know where it has come from, and we are also conscious of the fact that President Museveni is going to serve his term.
The last one.
And at one point, and even if the constitution is amended, whether we want it or not, we are going to have a time when President Museveni will not be able to provide leadership. That is the kind of conversation we need to begin to have. That the post-Museveni Uganda, how do we manage it? That President Museveni as a key player has got to get interested in that conversation. And I'm glad that he has pronounced himself on that one. That the last time when he was asked by, I think, NTV or somebody, he said, well, I am still concentrating on poverty eradication, but that does not mean that the issue of succession is not important, meaning that in his schedule, he understands the primacy of discussing the question of succession and also the transition. And I think that it is in our interest as a country, not just as NRM, to discuss that. You know, I would like this discussion to also go into the other political organizations, because they are also stakeholders. You know, there is a tendency for them to be so consumed about discussing what goes on in NRM. And for me, I think they should concentrate in cleaning up their own political organization.
David, would you want to take that?
So that when the time arrives, all of us as a country are prepared, not just NRM.
Okay.
Well,
this
anyway,
is a shared responsibility.
Anyway, I think NRM is in leadership at the moment. Whether genuine elected or not, that's a different matter. But it is in leadership today. Now, the issues are these, that NRM, like when I see what's happening in the political parties, for example, and the hand of NRM in those, fermenting those chaos within those parties,
Sure.
and sponsoring certain individuals within those parties
No.
is evident. This is a good DP, this is a good UPC, this is good according to who are you? Why don't you concentrate on yourself? This fishing which is going on and compromising. So,
but if I want to say that would you win power without fishing from NRM?
Listen, the politics of retail trade, buying and selling people, is what NRM is excelling in. Leaders, according to NRM, are on the shelf. They are available. They have a price. Name your price. Today you pick a Tubo. The next day you pick a Wari. You pick Betty Amongi. You pick so and so.
Because you in the opposition have a price.
The point I'm making is that that politics of retail trade, okay, will not work forever. So the point I'm making here is that you may appear to succeed in the short run. That's what UPC did in terms of DPs and so forth, until they reduced democracy to a showcase in Parliament. And you saw how people were crossing the floor in Parliament. But where did it take Uganda? So let me come to the point I want to make. And the point I want to make is that we are only sounding a caution. For every action, there's a reaction. And because Ugandans have come this far, they become even more bolder now than even a few years ago. Citizens have become more daring. And that's what is worrying some of us. That is there a way to avoid this? Even if you are dominant, even if you feel so strong and so forth. UPDF is a good institution. to assure stability in the country. But I'm afraid it's being mismanaged, it's being tampered with, it's not being allowed to professionalize. I've just given you examples. Now, if somebody again, if you undo UPDF, then what will hold the country together? And if UPDF officers, those with red pips, because the higher you go in UPDF, the more UPC you become, because you put on red, you salute like like UPC, you know, they don't salute like this or like this, you know, full hand. But that's a different matter. But I wish the officer corps could start to a conversation, how to delink themselves, the umbilical cord from NRM, the party. When it was NRA, yes, it was a militia of NRM. Now, when they ceded that institution to the state, and it was baptized UPDF in the constitution, so the umbilical cord should have been cut. But today, the umbilical cord between NRM and UPDF has not been cut. They sit in the same chairs in parliament. They go to the same caucuses. They do. I mean, you just ask yourself, do we have? So now this army, which is partisan, now the police force also, which used to be delinked. Now they have introduced an umbilical cord. There are political commissars now in police. Now, that's worrying for the country. If intelligence organizations do not delink themselves from partisan politics, then what will hold the country together?
Okay.
So that's why there is need for a national dialogue, for a new consensus. Imagine about Citizens Pact. Okay? People went through the country, they contribute. The political reforms that must be carried are there in Citizens Pact. The legal reforms must be there. The constitutional reforms that must be carried. All those reforms. But what did NRM do? Throw them aside. Each time you bring reforms, they say, wait, it's not yet time. And then when it comes to election, they say there's no time. Then they come with only 1 or 2, 3 changes, like baptizing electoral commission, independent electoral commission. And then you think Chigun is really independent.
Okay, our time is almost up, gentlemen. So let me give the opportunity to Dr. Gerard Karieja to give us the concluding remark as a Dean of School of Management Science.
Yeah, of course, these are my views.
Yeah.
They're not even my views, but I'm a student of public administration.
Yes.
So, I read 3 things. Odrick is asking a question because he has not yet got an answer. And those who think like him, because someone was raising the question of the palace, maybe in the palace, that question has not been answered,
yeah.
and in the party,
I think it's been asked to gauge before, so that they not
that's my view. The second general observation I want to make is that if we did an anatomy of political parties, many of them, if not all, are very infant in terms of organizational structure and abilities. As a nation, if we want to promote multi-party politics, we must deliberately grow and strengthen political parties.
Yeah.
My third and final observation is that in all this debate, we must carefully watch out for political power mongers whose intentions may not necessarily be for the best of this country. They may be within NRM or outside NRM.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Dr. Karieja, Honorable Koto Gong, Honorable George Odong, and David Pulkol. Thank you for your time. We appreciate your insights on this debate, and I'm sure this debate will continue online and other platforms in the country, because this is our country, and sometimes we may disagree, but that's not because we are enemies. I always say it's because we love our country more.
Yeah.
Good night and God bless Uganda.
Thank you.